Picture a Tuesday evening. Somewhere in America, a shopper pushes a cart down a cold, bright grocery aisle. They stop in front of the meat case. They reach in, grab a package of chicken, and glance at the price. Around $10. They don't think about it. Why would they? It's dinner. It's chicken. They toss it in the cart and keep moving. But in that one small moment, something enormous just happened. That $10 didn't just pay for a piece of meat. It entered a machine. A vast, coordinated, multi-billion-dollar economic system that started working months before that chicken ever touched a shelf. And here's the strange part. Dozens of businesses just got paid out of that single $10 package. A farm, a feed company, a hatchery, a processing plant, a trucking network, a distributor, a grocery chain. So here's the question that's going to pull you all the way through this video. When you spend $10 on chicken, who actually gets the biggest piece of it? Most people assume they know. Most people are wrong. Let's follow the money. Here's the trick your brain plays on you. You see one product, one package, one price. So your mind treats it like one transaction. But that's not what it is. That $10 package is the finish line of a relay race, and the baton got passed through a whole chain of separate companies. Each one added something. Each one took a cut. Think of it this way. One product equals multiple businesses stacked on top of each other. The chicken you're holding is really the combined output of feed producers, breeding operations, farms, slaughter and processing facilities, packaging suppliers, refrigerated trucking, warehouse distribution, and finally, retail. And money flows through that chain in stages. The grocery store paid the distributor. The distributor paid the processor. The processor paid the farmer. The farmer paid for feed, fuel, and financing. Every arrow in that chain is a payment, and every payment is somebody's revenue. Now here's the first thing that surprises people. The person raising the chicken is not necessarily the person controlling the economics. Keep that in your back pocket, because by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why. To understand chicken, you have to understand one idea above all others. Chicken is a scale business. Let me make that simple. On a single chicken, the profit is tiny. We're talking about thin margins on a low-cost product. If a business only sold a few chickens, it would barely be a business at all. But the American poultry industry doesn't sell a few chickens. It sells billions of pounds of chicken every single year. Verify current source, USDA/National Chicken Council production volume. So here's the math that runs the entire industry. Low profit per unit, multiplied by an almost unimaginable number of units, equals a very large business. That's the whole equation. Small number, gigantic volume. This is called economies of scale, and it's one of the most powerful forces in business. It just means the bigger you get, the cheaper each unit becomes to produce. Why? Think about it in everyday terms. If you buy one bag of chips at the store, you pay full price. If you bought a truckload, you'd negotiate a much lower price per bag. That's scale. Now apply that to chicken. A company operating at massive scale buys feed by the mountain, not the sack. It runs processing plants engineered to handle enormous throughput, so the cost of the building and equipment gets spread across millions of birds. It fills entire trucks instead of shipping half empty. It has the leverage to sit across the negotiating table from the biggest grocery chains in the country. Feed, processing, transportation, distribution, labor, equipment, retail relationships. At scale, every single one of those gets cheaper per pound. And that is exactly why moving millions of units doesn't just make more money. It changes the underlying economics of the entire product. But scale is only the frame. Now let's zoom in on the people at the very start of the chain, because their story is not what most people expect. When you imagine the chicken business, you probably picture a farm, and you should. But the modern chicken farm often works differently than people assume. A lot of the chickens Americans eat are raised through something called contract growing. Here's the basic idea. A large poultry company owns the birds, supplies the chicks, and supplies the feed. The farmer supplies the land, the barns, and the daily labor of raising those birds to full size. Verify current source, USDA ERS on contract broiler production. Now think about everything that farmer is responsible for. The land itself, long chicken houses that cost real money to build, electricity to run them, ventilation systems, heating in the winter, cooling in the summer, equipment that has to be maintained, repairs, financing on the loans that paid for those barns in the first place, and the constant risk of losing birds to disease or weather. This is the perfect place to slow down and nail one of the most important ideas in all of business: the difference between revenue and profit. Revenue is the money that comes in. Full stop. It's the top line. Cost is everything you have to spend to earn that revenue. Gross profit is what's left after you subtract the direct costs of the product itself. And net profit is what's left after you subtract everything, all of it. The electricity, the loan payments, the repairs, the taxes. Net profit is the money that actually stays in your pocket at the end. Here's a hypothetical example to make it real. Imagine a farmer brings in $100,000 of revenue in a year. Sounds great, but if the barns, the power bills, the equipment, the loan payments, and everything else costs $92,000, the net profit is $8,000. Same revenue, very different reality. And to be clear, that is a hypothetical example, not an industry average. That gap between revenue and profit is the single most misunderstood thing about business. And it's about to become the theme of this entire video. Because everyone in this chain has a top line that looks impressive and a bottom line that tells the real story. Now let's go back even further, because the economics of your chicken actually begin before there's a chicken at all. Here's something almost no shopper ever thinks about. The price of your chicken is quietly tied to a cornfield. Chickens have to eat, and what they eat is mostly corn and soybean meal. Verify current source, USD of feed composition data. That feed is one of the largest costs in the entire business of raising a bird. So follow this chain carefully. Corn and soybeans get grown and harvested. They get processed and mixed into feed. That feed gets shipped, using fuel and energy, to the farm. The birds eat it and grow. Then the chicken goes to the processor, then to the retailer, then to you. Now here's why this matters to your wallet. When the price of corn goes up, the cost of feed goes up. When the cost of feed goes up, the cost of raising a chicken goes up. And that pressure works its way down the entire chain until it can reach the price you see in the store. That's the business insight most people miss. The economics of chicken don't start on the farm. They start in the commodity market, in the weather, in energy prices, in things happening thousands of miles away from any grocery store. Your chicken is downstream of the entire agriculture economy. And now that the bird is grown, it heads to the place where the real transformation happens. This is where the chicken business gets genuinely fascinating. Because a live chicken walks into a processing plant as one thing, and it comes out as a dozen different products, each headed for a completely different market. Think about what comes off a single bird: breasts, thighs, wings, drumsticks, tenders. Then the trim gets turned into ground chicken. Some of it becomes nuggets and patties. Some become seasoned, prepared, ready-to-heat meals. This is a concept called value extraction, and it's the secret engine of the processing business. The processor isn't selling a chicken. They're selling every individual part of a chicken into whatever market pays the most for it. Why does that matter so much? Because different parts have different demand, and different demand means different pricing. Take wings. Demand for wings can spike hard around big sporting events and certain times of year. Breasts tend to sell into a different kind of market with different pricing dynamics. And the parts that get turned into nuggets, patties, and prepared foods carry different economics entirely, because now you've added labor, ingredients, breading, packaging, and convenience on top of the raw meat. Here's the brilliance of it. The same bird can be split up and sold into several markets at once, so the business isn't betting everything on one price. If wings are hot one month, that helps. If breast prices move, that's a different lever. I want to be careful here though. It's tempting to say one part is always the most profitable, but that shifts with the season and the market. Verify current source, cut level pricing data. What's undeniable is the strategy itself. One animal, many products, many markets. That is how you squeeze the maximum value out of a low margin item. And that idea of adding value on top of raw meat, that's about to become a business all its own. Let's line up a few versions of the exact same protein and watch the price climb. At the bottom, you've got plain bulk chicken, basic, raw, unprepared, then standard packaged chicken, then pre-cut pieces, then seasoned or marinated chicken, then fully ready to cook. And at the top, a complete prepared chicken meal you just heat and eat. Same animal, wildly different prices. So what exactly is the customer paying for as they climb that ladder? Here's the answer. And it's one of the most important ideas in modern retail. The customer isn't just buying chicken anymore. They're buying convenience. They're buying the labor they didn't have to do, the cutting they skipped, the seasoning someone else measured out, the packaging, the brand they trust, the consistency of knowing it'll taste the same every time. And most of all, they're buying back their own time. The core insight is simple. The product becomes more valuable to the customer the more work it saves them. That's why a seasoned, pre-portioned, ready-to-cook chicken product can command a very different price than a plain raw one. The chicken barely changed. The amount of effort you're offloading changed a lot. I won't put exact margin numbers on that because they vary, but the principle is rock solid, and it leads us straight to the place where all of this finally meets the shopper. The grocery store itself. So let's ask the obvious question. The store sets the final price, so the store must make the most money, right? Not so fast. Because here's a trap almost everyone falls into. The retail price is not the profit. Not even close. When a grocery store sells you that $10 chicken, look at everything that $10 has to cover. The store paid for the chicken itself. Then there's the workers stocking and ringing it up, the rent on that enormous building, the electricity, and refrigeration, which for a grocery store is a massive non-stop expense. Add in getting the product to the store, plus spoilage and what the industry calls shrink, which is product lost, damaged, or thrown out. Then promotions, discounts, and every other operating cost of running the place. This is the perfect moment to clear up two words people mix up constantly: markup and margin. Markup is how much you add on top of what something cost you. Margin is how much of the final selling price is actually profit. Quick example. Say an item costs the store $6 and they sell it for $10. The markup is $4 on top of $6. But the margin is that $4 measured against the $10 sale price, which is 40%. And out of that 40%, the store still has to pay rent, labor, power, and everything else. What's left at the very end is thinner than most people ever imagine. Now here's where it gets clever. Sometimes a store will price a product shockingly low on purpose. That's called a loss leader, or a traffic driver. The idea is that a killer price on one item pulls you through the doors, and once you're inside, you fill your cart with other things that do make the store money. Now, I want to be careful with that. Not every cheap chicken product is a loss leader. It depends on the retailer, the product, and the strategy. But this concept, pricing one thing aggressively to win the whole customer, is the key that unlocks one of the greatest pricing mysteries in America. Real quick, if you're finding this useful, hit subscribe, because we break down the hidden business math behind everyday products all the time. Now let's solve that mystery. Walk to the back of a lot of big American stores and you'll find it. A fully cooked, seasoned, ready-to-eat rotisserie chicken. Hot, packaged, done. And sometimes priced at around $5. Stop and think about that. It's already cooked. Someone raised it, processed it, shipped it, seasoned it, roasted it, and packaged it hot for you. And it can cost less than the raw chicken sitting a few aisles over. How on earth does that math work? Now, the easy dramatic answer is that the store loses money on everyone. And sometimes a retailer may indeed price it as a loss leader. But let's not just assume that, because there are real business reasons that price can make sense. Start with scale and supply chain control. A retailer moving an enormous number of birds can drive its costs down dramatically. Some large sellers have invested heavily in controlling more of their own supply chain to keep those costs low. Verify current source. Specific retailer strategy via company statements or filings. Then there's operational efficiency. When you're cooking a huge, steady volume all day, the cost per bird drops. But here's the deepest idea, and it's the whole point. That rotisserie chicken sits at the back of the store for a reason. To reach it, you walk past almost everything else. You came for a $5 chicken and you leave with $60 of groceries. That's basket economics. The chicken didn't have to be the profit. The trip was the profit. And it goes even further. A great deal builds loyalty. It gives you a reason to keep coming back, week after week. And a repeat customer, over years, is worth far more than the few dollars of margin on any single chicken. So here's the reframe. The chicken is one product, but the customer relationship is the real prize. Some of the smartest players in retail figured out that the item in your hand isn't the business. You are the business. So let's finally answer it. In this whole chain, Who really controls the money? And the honest answer is, there's no cartoon villain here. Profitability shifts constantly, up and down the chain, depending on commodity prices, labor costs, demand, retail pricing, product mix, contracts, processing efficiency, transportation, scale, capital costs, and overall market conditions. In a good year, one link thrives. In a bad year, that same link struggles. But there's a better question than who makes the most in any single year. Ask instead, who controls the most stages? Who controls scale? Who controls processing? Who controls distribution? Who controls the shelf space? And who owns the customer relationship? This brings us to one of the most powerful ideas in all of business: vertical integration. In plain English, it means a single company owning multiple links in the chain instead of just one. Imagine a company that controls the feed, the birds, the processing, and the distribution, all under one roof. Now that doesn't automatically mean it prints money, but controlling multiple stages can give a company far greater control over its costs, its supply, and its operations. And control, over the long run, is its own kind of power. Which brings us to the real lesson hiding underneath all of this. Here's the trap, and it's not that chicken is a scam. It isn't. The trap is that you, the shopper, only ever see the final price. You never see the machine underneath it. You see $10. You don't see the farm, the feed, the fuel, the processing, the packaging, the trucks, the warehouses, the refrigeration, the labor, and the risk that all had to happen first. So take that $10 and watch it flow. It goes toward the farm, the feed, the processing, the packaging, the transportation, the distribution, the retailer. Then all the operating costs of every business it touched. And whatever is left, at the very end of that long line, is profit. Which brings us to the single most important sentence in this entire video. Revenue is not profit. A company can move billions of dollars of chicken and still operate on thin margins, because revenue is just the money coming in. Profit is the tiny sliver that survives after every single cost has taken its bite. Big top line, small bottom line. That's not a trick. That's the business. So, let's go all the way back to where we started. Where does your $10 actually go? Now, I'm not going to lie to you and hand you a clean little pie chart that says this exact many cents went here and there. Because the truth is, that breakdown genuinely changes. It changes by company, by product, by retailer, by region, by the time of year, by commodity prices, and by operating costs. Anyone who gives you one fixed number for all chicken, everywhere, is guessing. Verify current source. Any specific cost share breakdown. But conceptually, the answer is clear, and it's more interesting than a pie chart anyway. Your $10 flows through an interconnected chain. Every stage adds a cost. Profit is only what's left standing after all of them. And the real advantage in this business, the thing that actually decides who wins, isn't owning one link. It's scale, efficiency, control, processing, distribution, access to the customer, and the coordination to make the whole chain run as one. That's the business math of chicken. Tiny margins, gigantic volume, and enormous power in the hands of whoever controls the most of the machine. So the next time you're standing in that cold, bright aisle, and you reach for a package of chicken and drop it in your cart, look at it for 1 extra second, because you're not just buying dinner. You're buying the final product of a business machine that started turning months ago, in a cornfield, in a barn, in a processing plant, on a highway full of refrigerated trucks. All of it, quietly coordinated, just to put that package in your hand for around $10. That's the thing about the everyday stuff we buy without thinking. The price is simple. The business behind it almost never is. If you want to understand the hidden business math behind the ordinary products you buy without a second thought, subscribe. Because once you start seeing the machine, you can't unsee it.